I caught a little grief the other day on the Taylor Strecker show for judgy comments about Disney adults. I'll admit, I don't really understand the appeal of going to a theme park without children, spending several hundreds of dollars standing in lines for rides, bathrooms, meals, in the sweltering heat, all in the name of the mouse. I don't get it. I don't have particularly intense or fond memories of watching Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast. I mean, I loved them, don't get me wrong, but I don't remember being obsessive. I mean, The Little Mermaid was a bop, but I don't particularly remember being obsessed with Disney. And, I liked it. There's not a huge pool of entertainment for children that's acceptable, but I loved it enough. Taylor reminded me on the show that our friend and co-host, Mackenzie Green, is a self-identified Disney adult, which was sort of surprising to me, but not really that surprising. Mackenzie is so smart, so kind, and while juggling a very bossy, big-time job at Who, What, Where, she's also the daughter of a historical legend and seems to have a very good head on her shoulders. I mean, Mackenzie wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning. She works out every day. She didn't seem like a mess at her age that I was at a mess at her age or even now. So I could kind of see her spending her time, eating churros and delighting in, mouse meet and greets. How many times have you been to Disneyland and or World?
Do you mean this year or in general?
Lord, honey. I meant in your life.
In my lifetime? Okay, so we used to go as a family every Thanksgiving from the time I was maybe 6. No, I had to been 5 to, I'd say maybe 11 until my grandfather passed.
Okay.
So that was our big family trip. I got so obviously I grew up in the world. My grandfather was a fan of Disney. My mom and I have been recently unpacking why we think he was a big Disney fan. And we really think we landed on the idea that it was one of the few places he could travel as a black man.
Okay.
Where he would get treated equally, right? So my mom still has memories of having to use the Green Book to know where to stay on the route from Indiana to California. But once you got to Anaheim to Disney, it was yes sir, no sir to my grandfather. And
okay.
It was so I think that ingrained familial part of it, I think is why he was he rode so hard for the parks and why we used to go every year for Thanksgiving. Because pretty much when we got old enough, my grandfather was we got to take, my cousin and I are only 3 months apart in age and we're the twins. And it was basically we got to take the twins to Disney. So we would just go every Thanksgiving. It was the thing. And then when I was 4, Disney did a movie about my dad. So then that was another layer of how I got around the park. So then all of a sudden I was
tight. You mean an animated film about your dad?
No, so they did
a Little Rock
a Disney original movie about, it's called The Ernest Green Story. And so I was
straight about your dad.
Oh yeah, straight about my dad.
They left the other 8 out.
Yeah, their names are included, but it's about him, starring Morris Chestnut as my father, which is why I'll never see Morris Chestnut as attractive.
What?
Yeah.
Have you ever met Morris Chestnut?
Yes, we spent the whole summer with him. For a long time, I thought Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee were my grandparents because Ruby played my grandmother and Ossie played my dad's grandfather because my grandfather had long passed by the time he was off to Central. So I spent my entire summer when I was 4 years old in Little Rock filming the movie with Morris Chestnut, Ossie Davis, Ruby, this insane cast of people. Cuba's brother played my Uncle Scott. Yeah. And so we were in the movie. So my introduction to the world of Disney was riding in a limo after the movie, before the movie premiered, because Michael Eisner invited us to the park as a guest.
And so you're almost like Rebel Wilson thanking Bob Iger for setting up
for
her
her
engagement.
proposal. Yeah.
You just pulled out Michael Eisner. That's so OG. I'm dying.
My introduction in the 90s, like my first real cogent memory of Disney was like coming up to the parks, holding my parents' hand, seeing this man behind the closed gates with Mickey Mouse and Minnie. And I think my mom says I asked her, like, what does he do? Like at 4. And she was like, he's the head of Disney. And I think that was when I started. So like I sit in a Disney adultness in 2 ways, as a fan and then like being convinced since the time I was 4 that like the goal is to be the CEO of the Walt Disney Corporation.
Okay. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
One thing about me is, I don't like to do anything Gen Pop.
Yeah. And
I think that's my real issue with Disney is I only want to go if I go like 23 stories.
You want like a plaid coat. Like you want to go and you want like a plaid. Like that's what you want.
What does a plaid coat mean?
So a plaid coat are the VIP tour guides of the park.
Correct.
So when you're on site, if you see a plaid coat, that's either very wealthy people or famous people.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you see a plaid vest,
that's what I want.
That's what I want. Yeah.
But you started your Disney experience plaid coat.
Yes. Like plaid coat on steroids. Like Michael Eisner before the park opened being like, welcome. Like I still remember my first Broadway. Well, no, it wasn't my first Broadway show, but like around the same time the movie had finished, they were starting Disney on Broadway. And so Beauty and the Beast. We went.
A tale as old as time.
Right. And we went as like Mr. Eisner's guest and we sat in his seat. And like, so when people are like, oh, you love Broadway, I'm like, yeah, but you have to understand, like, my first real introduction to Broadway are like 2 things, which is like going backstage during Jesus Christ Superstar and meeting like Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber, and also like sitting front row and having them like sing at Michael Eisner and being like, these people are here for me. Oh my God. So like my cognizant
be our
ideas.
Guest. Wait.
Yeah.
So how can you ever go back? The problem is for me is like when I do things like that, I have no interest. Like it's just got to stay peak. Do you still get the plaid coat experience?
No, like here's the thing. So obviously I had that wild experience, but then we would go as like regular people when we went as a family.
I mean, I hate to break it to you. You ain't never in your goddamn life been regular.
I am regular as hell.
I hate to break it to you, friend. You are not regular.
I refuse to accept that. I am so regular. But yeah, we were just like regular family going and having a good time when we would go.
What's your favorite ride?
Oof. Now you're asking a hard question, because here's where I don't count as a real Disney adult. When I go to Orlando, I don't like going to Disney. I like going to Universal. So my favorite ride there.
That's not what this episode is about.
I know. I'm sorry.
We ain't crossing studios.
Fine.
You know,
I would say hands down, my favorite is probably Tower of Terror.
Not a small world.
No, because I have good memories of like my mom and my aunt being miserable on Tower of Terror. And it's just like anything that just upsets my family. I love.
Is Tower of Terror Disneyland or Disney World?
That's Disney World.
So what's your favorite Disneyland?
Disneyland. So I'm a massive Marvel fan. So I love the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is basically they took Tower of Terror and turned it into like a Marvel themed ride. And then I like the Incredicoaster because I love roller coasters.
None of that speaks Disney to. I thought you were going to say like Cinderella's.
No, like that's what I like.
Cabinet.
See, but this is why I laughed when you were like, I want you to come on and talk about being a Disney adult. And I was like, I'm a horrible Disney adult. Like I own one pair of ears and they're Black Panther themed.
That's tight.
Exactly. The moment they came out, I like saw them online and I was like, oh shit, I gotta go get these. Fuck.
Do you ever go like Halloween or Christmas time? That's where I feel like
oh hell yeah. Halloween is great. I went this year on Halloween. I went to the Halloween party. And the reason the Halloween party
went to the Halloween party like a fancy thing or like general regular people?
It's like you have to like buy tickets and this whole thing.
Oh boy.
And I went because what makes it fun is because it was on a Monday. The kids are there to see the characters. All the thrill rides, I got on those with no line. I was riding the same roller coaster like 14 times and 10 different spots. I'd be like, put me in the front. Can I ride in the back? Can I get in the middle? Can I ride that row? The people were like, okay. And then I loved that they had a headless horseman. I literally waited till 9 o'clock to be like, that was nice. That was nice. And then left.
I think what really overwhelms me about it, well, I mean, there's so many things.
There's a lot to be overwhelmed by.
There's a lot to be overwhelmed by. I felt personally attacked and offended by Rebel Wilson's branded engagement. I keep talking about this so publicly, and I'm dying because we very much have a very, very close friend in common. And
I'm also fairly certain I was at the park the day it happened.
Like a week ago?
No, like I was there a week ago, but like when she posted the photo, I was like, I think I passed where this was. Because there was like a crowd, because obviously when special stuff is happening, people are like, what is that? Famous people? Who's coming? And I was just there to like ride one ride.
I've talked about this on the Taylor Strecker show, but like truly the branded Tiffany's, Bob Iger thank you of it all, the tagging, it really, you and I both as debutantes, it was so tacky and tasteless on levels that I can't understand. Now, people spend a lot of money getting married at Disney. Like they want to be in the Cinderella.
Oh, yeah.
Horse-drawn carriage. I was reading a Reddit thread that has actually been since removed. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but they were foregoing catering for their guests, and they were going to let their guests buy their own food.
I heard about this.
So that they could have a special appearance by Mickey and Minnie, which is like, how much does Mickey and Minnie cost? And
a shit ton.
Really?
I had I went to school in Miami, and my roommate was born and raised in Orlando. She's one of my best friends. She went on to become, as you call them, a close personal friend of the mermaid. So she's like, she literally looks like a Disney princess when you see her.
What do you mean personal close friend of a mermaid?
Because you can't say that you portrayed a character. Right. So she was a close personal friend of the mermaid. And because you can't freak out kids and be like, I'm Ariel. And they're like, no, you're not.
Yeah, but you have to say I'm Ariel when you're getting paid and you're sweating.
So when you're in costume, you're the character. You gotta commit. When you're out of it, you're a close personal friend.
Okay.
And so then she also went to school for hospitality. So she worked for the wedding side, and she was like, and she and I used to laugh about like how much it cost, like to a point that she was like, the things that people will prioritize for a Disney wedding, I'm sure if we like took it to Italy, the way people prioritize food, she's like, the way people will prioritize, like, I don't care if we have an ADA compliant ramp for grandma, if that costs extra money. I don't need to like have the cake. I can have cupcakes. It was like, but I have to have like Mickey and Minnie, or I have to have like Donald and Daisy present.
I would think I would take Donald and Daisy over Mickey.
That's
and Minnie.
my thing.
I
think Daisy's a bad bitch.
Daisy is a real bad bitch. Now, what's your favorite Disney movie? You talk about Marvel and a lot of stuff. That's very new.
But see, Marvel is, to me, it's Disney.
But I'd say like at all. I would never.
I'd say, but it's owned by the Disney company. It's a Disney movie.
Girl, a lot of it is everything's owned by Disney, but it doesn't mean it's Disney.
I mean, then I'd say Hercules. That was like the first Disney movie. I was like, yeah.
What are you talking about right now? Hercules?
Have you ever? I'd say Hercules and a Goofy movie are tied. I don't know. Have you ever seen that Atlanta episode where they're like, Goofy movie is the blackest movie ever made?
Yes, I have seen.
Yeah. That's literally like every time I watch it, I'm like, agreed.
Hercules?
Yes. Have you ever watched that?
I mean, I think the problem is similar to a few So I was a little too old for a few Disney movies. You know what I mean? Like the cutoff happened. Hercules, when did that come out?
Hercules is like
98, something like.
Yeah, like 98. Like
I was stealing my grandma's Parliament lights.
No, not even a chance.
98, I was fucking doing all bad shit. You know what I mean? I was wearing eyeliner and I had a Kate Spade bag and I had a North Face puffy coat, and I was a bad bitch.
I was obsessed with the concept. I remember the first time I watched Hercules, I was like, I get this. That it was like his father's a god, his mother's a god, like on Mount Olympus, and he's just sitting down here on Earth trying to.
Who was the main voice of that? Anybody big?
I can't remember, but I know Danny DeVito was the voice of Philoctetes.
I mean, okay, 1997, so I wasn't quite smoking yet. Oh my God, that's right. You know who it is? I do remember this. You know who was Hercules?
Who? Donny Osmond, right?
Tate Donovan.
Oh,
Tate
wow.
fucking Donovan. Who, what a random, I just remember he dated, I think, Jennifer Aniston for some time. I don't know. That's just,
I wouldn't even, in the words of Keke Palmer, I wouldn't even know that man. He could walk down the street and I wouldn't know who he was.
Yeah. Wow, Hercules, what a curveball. Didn't see that coming.
You thought I was going to say like a Disney princess.
No. I thought you were going to go kind of more like Moana.
No, because that's like recent. Like I love and appreciate Moana. I think it's really dope to see like, I think that's what makes Disney kind of cool is when you go and you see characters now, like these new characters that exist in other minority groups. And you like, so like I'm a huge Marvel fan, and whenever like a new character gets introduced into the MCU, they bring that character to the park. I can still remember every second of watching a little kid in a Shang-Chi outfit, a little Asian kid, run into the park, run to the balcony because Shang-Chi was being like welcomed to the park that day. And I just remember thinking like, well, this is fucking dope. And I feel the same way when I see like the girl who dresses as Moana, or like when I go now around the Halloween season when they have like Coco and watching that, or like when Encanto happened.
Coco got me. Yo.
Oh.
I took an edible. I had just produced New York Beauty Con, which was the worst thing ever. I was like, I'm quitting this job. This is the worst job I've ever had. I don't even like beauty anymore. This has ruined it for me. And I got on this plane. I was hungover. I was tired. I was exhausted. I was at the Javits Center for 4 days straight. I mean, there's nothing
not
worse.
Easy.
And I got on the plane and I sat next to this girl named Mallory, who's kind of weird. She ended up quitting. And I was like, I think she was like, I have an edible. And I was like, you know what? Why not? And we shared headphones, like Apple headphones, one on each.
Oh my God.
And we sat and we timed it like with our TVs right at the same time and watched Coco. I was a mess. I sobbed. Coco really, for me, touched me deeply. Encanto, I also actually happened to be on edibles, and I had my booster shot, my COVID booster shot, and I watched it and I was convinced that it was real people with Instagram filters. Have you ever seen those Instagram filters? Though,
yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's uncanny. Yeah. I'm sorry. Listen, I know I sound like a dodo right now, but it is wild. They really look like, I think that's my only thing.
Like Encanto got me for the sister Luisa who does all the like taking care of everybody. And like recently I
lesbian?
She's not a lesbian, but
the one that's like I pick up like
yeah,
whatever.
she picks up, but like when my dad got really, really sick and he was in the hospital, and like I've been helping a lot with stuff, and I'm always trying to explain to my family like how tired I am from like trying to shoulder everything. And so I was home during the spring for a different family emergency, and I was like playing Encanto, and we got to that song and like to Surface Pressure, and I had closed captions on, and my mom like looks over and I'm crying, and she was like, oh my God, is this how you feel? So like now whenever I'm like doing stuff for everybody, they'll be like, okay, Louisa, you don't have to hold, like you can let us hold some stuff.
Oh no,
now.
they calling you Louisa and everything. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Louisa. I'll take note of that. Yeah. That's wow. Yeah. Okay.
It's a really good, like the whole point, like, I don't know. I've seen a lot of videos of like oldest siblings, like being deep in their feelings, listening to it. And as the reliable sibling, like the first time I heard it, I was like, oh my God, wow. Somebody nailed what this feels like.
I hear that. Yeah, for
in
sure.
a snappy little 3-minute song.
Now, I like that, you know, it's interesting. You've gone through such a trajectory as a Disney adjacent, we'll say, right? Being ushered into the park at 4 years old by the president and CEO. Having a movie made, produced about your father. That's pretty, the Morris Chestnut of it all. I don't know how I'm going to recover. I'm trying to keep the show going, but it's a lot. You're hitting me with a lot. But like, is there anything that if you could be the CEO of Disney?
Yeah.
What would you change about the parks?
Oh my God. I would probably do stuff that's a little bit more ADA compliant. Like it's already pretty accessible now, but I wish there was recently, who was it? I think it was Legoland. Like they released as part of the parks, they have stuff for people on autism spectrum that explains like sensory wise, like where this ride is rated. I wish that existed at Disney.
Tight. That's really cool.
I think it's amazing.
That's really
I
cool.
wish that existed at all parks where they kind of said like, hey, this is like a 5 on the touch scale, a 6 on the noise, like that kind of stuff. The other is like, I would definitely pay cast members more. I don't think they get paid enough for the shit they have to deal with. It's kind of like the Plaid coats, for example. That's I think it's like $10,000 an hour for something crazy for but like those kids still get paid like minimum wage.
Yeah.
So they rely on tips. And I wish that was disclosed more that like, hey, these cast members deserve a little bit more credit.
Have you been in 23 Stories?
What? You mean Club 33?
Oh, yeah, that's it. See, I don't even know what it's called.
No, I've never been in there. I've stared at it. I know where the door is.
You know what's funny? So I've talked to some people that have been inside and I hear it's kind of whack.
I've heard the same thing, but it's like who doesn't want to go inside of it?
I feel like we got to make this happen.
Yeah. It's like an exclusive club that I want to know.
Here's the thing. I only want to go to Disneyland if it's exclusive.
Yeah. Listen, this is why I am the de facto plaid coat of everybody in my life. Like people come to town and they're like, I want to go to Disney. Take me to Disney. Because I know all the
So how many times have you gone every year? We didn't even answer the first question.
Oh, how many times have I? Oh, God.
How many times do you typically go per year to Disney?
I'm definitely going at least once a month.
What?
Yeah. I have an annual pass.
Girl, once a month?
Yeah. So with the cost
Doesn't
of
it
the
get
level.
boring? Haven't you done the same thing over and over?
So like next month is the Food and Wine Festival. So like, yeah. So like I'll probably go next month to try out the new food. New food drops every month. There's like new seasonal dishes.
New food drops. Don't they not have alcohol? Isn't there no alcohol in Disney?
Absolutely not, girl. If you go over to DCA, people are getting wasted. Like they have some of the best cocktails in town over there.
In Disney. I thought it was across the way in Adventure World.
No. You go over to Disney California Adventure, they got all kinds of sneaky ass cocktails over there. Like if you go down a YouTube rabbit hole, there are people whose entire YouTube presence is just, here's what food is at Disney this week.
I thought it was just turkey legs.
Oh, girl, no. Now over at Disneyland, where I don't really like to frequent a lot because it's loud, it's crazy, half the rides don't work. The only thing I like over there is Star Wars. But like they have turkey legs, the standard Dole Whip, all that stuff. Like it's good. They have good food. Like I went recently because for Black History Month, they did like a soul food brunch. So I went over there to have a soul food brunch on a Sunday morning and got on 3 rides. And then I went home.
So like, are you would you meet a dude there? Like what if like a Disney adult dude was like, yo, let me holler at you. Would you be this is cool? Or would you be like, I gotta be the only Disney adult in the relationship.
I don't think you need 2 Disney adults. Like I've been on a date with a guy who like had a Disney credit card, had an annual pass, and was like, let's go. Yeah. And was like, let's go to the park for a date. But it was just like, it was one of those strange things where also I'm like, I have my routine. I'm about to say a term that you're going to be like, what the fuck? I like to rope drop. So I like to be there when the park opens. I don't like to be there late at night. I don't want to be there when people are melting down, when families have had enough.
What time does it open?
Off. So technically it opens at 8, but you can get into the park at 7:30. I love it.
How are you even? Well, you wake up really early.
But yeah, I wake up really early. I delight in it. I love a rope drop.
Don't you gotta go on the weekends because of your job?
Like, here's the thing. I go on the weekends if it's like, I once had an exceptionally stressful day for work. So I literally worked from the park. Like, legit took my laptop, all my stuff. They got Wi-Fi. I found a nice little quiet corner. I was on calls all day. Then in between calls, I'd close my laptop, go get on a ride.
I hate to break it to you, but I think you're definitely like a Disney adult.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I'm the first person to say I'm absolutely a Disney adult.
Okay.
Now, am I like pushing children out of the way to take a picture with Mickey? Am I Disney bounding? No.
Yeah, because you don't have to, because you already have plenty of photos of you.
Like,
and
my
Mickey.
thing is, like, there's stuff there that's fun and I enjoy it. I'm also like, life is incredibly short. Like, memento mori. Like, live, like, do the things that make you happy.
Sure.
But simultaneously, I'm also like, yeah, this is fucking weird. Like, I'm the first person to be in line when they're like, how many people? I need one rider. And I'm like, me. And everybody looks at you like you're crazy. And
so
like,
you go solo bolo.
Absolutely. Solo dolo. I don't need people slowing me down. I got a system. Also, those tickets are expensive. So I'm not about to say to somebody else, do you want to come with me? Because I'm like, well, that's expensive. Like, that's weird. That's rude.
Like,
that's
I like to go to
on
the farmer's market alone.
There you go.
I guess it's
That's
the
way,
same.
like, listen, I will go out there and get my steps in. I have been known to literally, because I have this pass, be like, all right, I'll just fucking go out there, walk the perimeter of the park, head back on out.
But it's a drive.
At the time I go, it's like 15, 20 minutes.
To get there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'm also just dying that you don't even call it the Disneyland. You just call it the park.
Yeah, the park.
Yeah, you don't even got to put the Disney in it.
No.
So, like, if you went to France or Tokyo, would you go to Disneyland there?
I mean, when we went to Paris, did I drag my family to Disney? Yes. Did we hate every second of it? Oh, absolutely.
Oh, my God.
I mean, now, did we hate every second of it? Sure.
Why? Is it worse than, what's the difference?
Well, because the service wasn't as great. It was freezing cold when we were there. Like, there was also a strike on the subway, so we had to take like an Uber all the way there. Listen, my family made it very clear to me that they were like, we hate this. And I was like, I love that you guys are so miserable. Like, and then it just became fun because they were like, we hate it. And I was like, well, now I like it because everybody is having the worst time of their life.
Wow. It's an expensive habit.
It's a very expensive habit. But like my mom said to my cousin, when my oldest cousin, they were here for Christmas and I took everybody out to Universal, took everybody to Disney, just as like a fun thing. And my cousin kind of like said to my mom, like, oh, my mom goes, listen, it's an expensive vice. But of all the vices for her to have in a city like this, I'll take this in books any day.
Whilst reading Apple News in bed on Saturday this past weekend, I stumbled on an article about Jeff Reitz, who went to Disneyland for a consecutive 2,995 days, which totals 8 years, 3 months, and 13 days. He won the Guinness Book of World Records for attending Disneyland consecutively, the most out of anybody ever. And I was like, damn, I got a lot of questions for Jeff. I am very, very curious about this. So naturally, I DM'd him. And it sounds like I'm one of the first of many interviews that Jeff has this week. But you can suck it, CNN, because I got to him first. I have to tell you, I have so many questions. Like, I mean, 8 years of going. So you went every single day, 7 days a week for 8 years.
Yep. Rain or shine.
No matter. And was there anywhere during that time? Because you can't travel. You can't go anywhere except for Disney in that time.
Yeah, but dude, that's the glory. Remember what Walt wanted to do was have a central location. And he did just that. Anaheim is so central that I was able to do stuff from all the way down to San Diego, all the way up to Santa Barbara, out to Palm Springs, and go to Disneyland on the same day. I was even scuba diving in the Channel Islands.
I love that. How long, was it, sometimes would you just have to check off a box and go over for a coffee and leave, or?
No, my minimum was still at least an hour. I was there, because the whole thing, I wasn't doing it just to earn the record. When I started this, I had no idea or even a thought about going for a Guinness record. That's just something that snowballed later on. But because I wanted to do it for fun and, for my own self, I didn't want to, dip my toes in the pond and walk away. I wanted to actually go in and go for a swim each time.
Are you a lifelong Disney fan?
Yeah, I would say you could say that. I mean, I was raised watching, Disney cartoons, movies. My favorite movie is still Tron from 1982.
Okay.
And then I got my first annual pass in 2002. did my first trip to Walt Disney World. My aunt was a cast member at the time, and we went there from Christmas '03 to New Year's Day '04. And I made my only warm water scuba dive in the Epcot Aquarium.
Wow. So you were a cast member?
No, I wasn't, but my aunt was.
Your aunt was. Okay, sorry.
And back in high school, my brother was at Disneyland.
What was he a close friend of?
He actually wasn't a close friend. He was in custodial and busing.
Love it. So what does he think about you holding the Guinness World Record of attendance at Disneyland?
He's given me his congratulations. He's back in Ohio now, so he watches from afar. But when he now has 2 little girls of his own, so when they come to visit, they like to go to Disney.
So now, has Disney reached out to you? Like, do you get like a cool pair of special ears? Like, Jeff, I feel like you deserve a plaid vest or something at this point.
As for special ears, when I hit day 2000 back in 2017, they actually gave me a set of ears that had my date embroidered on the back.
That's cool.
But since I got the Guinness last week, no, I have not heard from Disney at all.
But it's still soon. It's still soon. It's only been a week, you know?
True.
And you're about to go on this podcast, which will obviously catapult you to extreme fame. So, you know, you never know.
And the whole idea about the Guinness World Record title has been, for me, personal frosting on the cake because I didn't file for it. Guinness reached out to me through Instagram on my DMs and said, hey, we want to do an article on you on our website. Can you send us an email? And we have some question and answers we'd like you to fill out. And so I did. And the next day when I'm going to look at the Q&A form, on the top of it says, congratulations on earning your world record title. And I was like, should I be filling this out? I don't have a Guinness title because I never filed for it. And they said, actually, you do. It was filed as a consultancy record, meaning that one of the Guinness World Record consultants saw my record and deemed it worthy of a title, and they put it together on the backside and presented it to me.
Wow.
So it was a real gift.
And do you have a favorite ride?
The Matterhorn bobsleds. Ever since I was little and growing up, when I was in Boy Scouts, I was into rock climbing, and we used to talk to the mountaineers when they'd come down off the mountain. I've just always loved the mountains in general, and so I've always enjoyed the Matterhorn.
Now, Disney obviously evolves with the times, right? I mean, now when you watch an animated Disney movie, I feel like I'm on mushrooms. I mean, it's like crazy. Like the people look real to me. I mean, in Kanto, it's crazy. Do you sort of now have to have like a current favorite Disney ride or attraction? Because obviously they have Marvel now. Or you kind of keep it nostalgic to your childhood and your kind of growing up years?
You know, I mean, I do have multiples that I love. I mean, if you want a new one, you can't beat one of the newer attractions that came out in 2019, and that would be Rise of the Resistance at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
Okay.
That is a complete e-ticket ride, multiple levels, trackless. I mean, it's a great over-the-top attraction.
Now, are you done? Like now, because I feel like there are some people that get Guinness World Records and then they keep going for more. I've read about that. And now are you like, all right, tick that one off the box. Like now I'm going Disney World because this is an expensive habit, Jeff.
Even more now. So because of the changes since COVID, I welcome any competitors, and I always have the whole time. You figure it's going to take them at least, 8 years, 3 months, and 14, 15 days. So that means having at least 9 annual passes, because of an annual pass being just that. It's 1 pass per year, and every time you have to renew it, or else you're paying cash prices. Well, with the new Magic Key system, my top annual pass was about $1,400. It's $1,399, so $1,400. The top Dream Key is now $1,599, so $1,600. So it's gone up another $200, and it now has 20 blackout dates, meaning that if you want to go visit the park for those 20 days over Christmas, New Year's time frame, you're going to have to spend 20 days worth of parking at $30 a spot and 30 days of admission tickets. So even if you use $200 a day as your price, because it is, top tier pricing being the holidays,
Right.
you're going to end up spending $4,000 to $5,000 just for parking admission to go every single day of a year. And that's
It's a
just for the
lot.
first year. Who knows what the prices would increase up to over those years? I mean, for myself, my APs ranged from about $500 back in 2012 up to $1,400 in 2019.
It's a big jump.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a really big jump. Now, they always say absence makes the heart grow fonder. Do you need a break from Disney?
I have taken a break. I actually have not been back since I finished back on Friday the 13th of March 2020 when COVID closed the gates on me. I've gotten back into doing other activities, hobbies like going scuba diving again and going hiking and actually getting to take trips outside the Southern California area.
Where have you gone?
Took a trip with my girlfriend for her spring break last year. We went up the coast. We stayed in Lompoc and then went up 101 through Big Sur and up towards Monterey and just kind of toured around the coast area for a week.
I'm from San Francisco, so I love that. And I live in LA, but I love that drive. Yep. Oh, you're from Redwood City.
I am. I was actually born in Redwood City, but I grew up since I was 6 months old down here in Huntington Beach.
Okay.
My dad grew up on the Presidio. My parents had their wedding party at the NCO Club.
Oh, I love that. I got married right in Belvedere, right across the way.
Yeah, my mom is from the Mission District. So,
oh, wow.
Grandpa was SFPD, downtown's walking beat for 30 years.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've got a lot of family history in San Francisco area.
You sure do. Now, is your girlfriend a Disney adult as well?
Yes, that's actually, we met online, but it was actually the fact that she had an annual pass was one of the pluses. And so our first date was actually meeting at the park. And we went and hit a couple of rides, and then we walked across the street and went to Pizza Press for dinner. And while we were sitting there, because it was one of the days when they had the Halloween party where Disneyland was closing early, I wanted to pop in right away. And so we got in, spent a couple hours there, and then went across the street. And while we were finishing dinner, we got to watch the fireworks from across the street. And then we went over to California Adventure after we were done eating to have some more fun to continue the night for our first date.
Sounds magical. Literally. I feel like if there was anyone that should get married, not to put that on you, if there's already pressure, you guys should get married and have the whole Cinderella carriage ride experience. Would you be into that? You'd have to be. I feel like you would be.
That's always one option. There's different ideas in there that I have ticking in my head.
Okay.
But you never know.
Who would you want to officiate? What character? Your potential wedding at Disneyland?
Well, if I were to pick a character, I mean, it's a funny choice, literally. But my character that I've always connected with, and which turned into a running joke later on, was Goofy, because both of us are tall, goofy guys. But then he's also, when you look at his cartoons, he's into sports and the outdoors. He's done skiing. He's done rock climbing.
True.
Besides football, baseball, and all the traditionals. And those are activities that I've enjoyed myself, being National Ski Patrol when I was up in Alaska. I do cross country and downhill skiing. I've done skydiving along with my scuba diving and hiking and everything. And then when I was back in school and high school, I was playing football, baseball, and the other traditional type of sports, shot and disc and things. So just like Goofy does.
You're a very well-rounded guy, Jeff.
I try to be, and then when I say about a joke was when my girlfriend and I would go into the park, she used to joke about getting pictures and send them to me that she was with her Goofy boyfriend. And it would be a picture of like her and Goofy.
I like that. She has a sense of humor. So I love to ask, what's your favorite Disney snack?
I bounce around between ice cream, Dole Whips, churros. It just depends on what I feel like. Even the pretzels I enjoy. But between Dole Whips and ice cream are my favorite. There used to be a snack that was off the menu you could get over at the Golden Horseshoe that was ice cream nachos, where they would actually take like a waffle bowl and break it up into your nachos and then put scoops of ice cream and the chocolate sauce and other toppings and stuff on top of it.
What?
So that was a really tasty one. Yeah, it was.
I love nachos. This is my brain is blowing. That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's a one. Okay. All right. Last question. What's the most surprising thing you learned either about yourself or about like park culture during your 8 years at the parks?
Park culture, I kind of had an idea, but you really learn that there are a lot of different people that love the park. And there's so many different ways to love the park. You know, for example, I'm not one to get dressed up. Wearing my polo shirts that I have for work is on the dress up side. Whereas when it comes time for Dapper Days, you look at some of those folks and the way that they get dressed up, or you look at some of the Disney bounders and how the outfits that they put together, like when you go to the expos, like the D23 Expo and stuff like that. There's so much neat stuff. I mean, I have a follower that, you know, just started following me again recently, that her and her daughter were actually just at Disneyland this past weekend. And every day they were coordinating little outfits, you know, like mom was Donald Duck and her little daughter was Daisy, you know, and so they were dressing up, looking like these characters and bounding as they went through the park. And I think it's awesome that everyone's able to enjoy the magic in their own way.
Yeah, that's true. Wait, were you working the whole time you were doing this?
I almost the whole time. When I first started, I was unemployed.
Okay.
But I did pick up temporary jobs the first few months here and there. And then in September of 2012, I started working here at the Long Beach VA hospital, helping my fellow veterans.
Love it.
And I've been here since then. So basically, it was only the first 8 months that I didn't have a permanent full-time job.
So so you have to go before or after work, basically.
Exactly. And so I normally work a day shift, so I would get off about 3:30, make the 15-mile drive over to the park, and then I was usually getting into the park. If I took my time, I'd enter in right about 5 o'clock as the crows would fly. I
look forward to enjoying a Dole Whip and then an ice cream nachos whilst on It's a Small World After All. And I will think about you for sure.
Definitely.
First of all, Jeff is a lovely, multi-dimensional man. I did not see the scuba diving coming, and I don't think you did either, but I was very into it. I started to research Disney adults further, which led me to TikTok. There's a kind of a divide. There are the ones that are obviously Disney adults, and you know, I think every group of people has a home on TikTok. And then there are the kind of the like anti-Disney adults, which obviously I'm not anti, but I kind of identify with the humor. But in all of this, I stumbled on an article on Rolling Stone written by E.J. Dickson, who's a senior writer there. And she's written on the subject quite a bit. And you'll hear in a moment, she is a self-described and anointed Disney adult. As a queer Jewish woman, her relationship with her love affair of the brand is a really interesting one, and her knowledge and expertise in subcultures gives her a really interesting and I think a very balanced point of view on her relationship with the brand. So, as a self-identified Disney adult, how was it writing a whole article for Rolling Stone about it? Like, did you feel like you were biased or you could actually tell the tale?
No, I felt like because I am a Disney adult, like I was in a position where I could act like I see both sides of it. You know, I see the side of it where people think that Disney adults are cringe and weird and obsessive and all the stuff that people love to say about the fandom. But I also see how it also provides people with an outlet to sort of escape from their everyday lives and how necessary that is, considering how stressful the world is. So I think I'm sort of in a unique position where I can kind of see all sides of the discourse, so to speak.
What's the feeling that you get when you go specifically to like a Disney park?
I I don't even know if I can like put it into words. It's just this blend of like nostalgia because I spent my childhood, you know, with my family going, and it was like one of the few times that everybody was, you know, would sort of get along and be happy. And there's also like this weird sense of purpose that like I feel there. Like I'm not the kind of Disney adult who likes to just like hang out in the parks and like soak up the atmosphere. I'm like very goal oriented. I'm like, okay, we're going to wake up at 6 a.m. We're going to log on to Genie Plus at like exactly 7. We're going to get this ride and this ride. And we're going to, you know, this is the strategy that we're going to map out like at the parks. So it's this weird combination of like, I have a very sentimental attachment to the parks, obviously, but like it also fulfills the like type A, you know, hyper motivated part of myself as well.
How often do you go?
I mean, as often as I can, really. Like now that I, you know, I'm a working parent and I have 2 kids. I just had another baby. So
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's no easy feat, working in editorial and publishing, having 2 kids. So
yes, I agree with that assessment very strongly. So I think I'm probably going to make it less often than I used to. I mean, yeah, it really depends because it's obviously so expensive. Like it's really like cost prohibitive.
Sure.
So like I did just basically like there was a point where I was going, this was like 10 years ago though, when it was much easier to do this, like where we were going like every year.
Got it.
Or so. But now it's just basically like whenever I can sneak it in, whenever I get a chance. And it's definitely harder to do so considering how expensive the parks are.
What's a Disney film that you were most excited to share with your child or both children? Or, you know, I mean, you just had a baby, so I don't know if they're quite ready for Disney, but maybe. But what's a film that you were so excited to share with your children?
Oh my God. My oldest son is a Disney freak. He's like, that's like probably the biggest thing that I've passed on to him / the worst thing that I've passed on to him is like, he is obsessed with all things Disney. It's kind of a problem. What was the movie? Well, my favorite movie of all time, like not even like my favorite Disney movie, like my favorite movie of all time is Mary Poppins. So I think I was probably
strong choice, EJ. Strong choice.
Yeah.
What about animated?
Not as big a fan as I am, but he liked Mary Poppins. Animated. That's a hard one because he loves them all so much. His favorite is The Little Mermaid, but I wouldn't say that's my favorite.
What's your favorite?
I have to think about it. It's like so hard. It's like
top 3.
I have a renewed appreciation for The Lion King that I did not have when I was a child. Beauty and the Beast was probably my favorite as a child. But now, you know, in light of the complex gender dynamics and relationship dynamics, like that are sort of problematic in retrospect, I would say my favorite's probably The Lion King. I have a renewed appreciation for the music and the story and the craftsmanship of that one.
That's a pretty solid one. That's one of my top 3, I would say, if I were to have to choose. And then what's your feeling on like just the visual difference, being such a Disney fan and clearly, you know, growing up with it? Obviously your you know, you guys went as a family to the parks, but I find the new visuals of like an Encanto or a Coco jarring in relation to what we grew up with. Obviously animation evolves, like technology evolves, but I find it like hard to I don't know. I find it hard to concentrate. Do you like it better, more, different? It's incomparable.
It's an interesting question. I think it's hard to get used to for sure if you're so steeped in like the traditional animation style. But obviously, like I love Pixar and I grew up with Pixar and like the computer generated animation as well because I came of age, like age wise, I'm sort of bridging the gap between the two.
Okay,
I guess. But I mean, I think that just generally speaking, like this is something that Disney adults will always say, you know, when there's like a big change made in the park or a big change made in the company, like Walt never imagined Disney to be like a static thing. Like Disney is always ever evolving, ever changing, like keeping up with the times. And it's kind of like a weird thing to say about a brand, but, or a guy like Walt, who obviously has a very complex legacy. But I think it's really true. I mean, I think if you really are a passionate Disney fan, then that's what you appreciate the most about the company. And that's what you appreciate the most about the brand, you know, just the way that they're constantly changing and evolving with the times. And even if, you know, if something deviates from like how you remembered it as a child, you know, you appreciate it on its own terms. And I think that's what really separates like the good Disney adults, quote unquote, from the bad Disney adults, like that willingness to accept the new and the novel and the different and the interesting.
Would you say that there's actually like there's like rifts between Disney adults now? I mean, now I think with like TikTok,
Absolutely.
What do you think the biggest rift between Disney adults today is? Like, what is the major divide?
Well, there are a lot of like internecine rifts, like people who, you know, it sort of goes back. I would say the biggest one is sort of what goes back to what I was saying before. And I think the renovation of Splash Mountain is like kind of a perfect example of it. Like there were people, Disney traditionalists and Disney purists, who were really opposed to Splash Mountain being revamped and being made into, what is it? Tiana's Bayou Adventure. That's the name of it. I think that's the name of it. Because they were just so attached to like the ride itself and the attraction and what it meant. And then there was another group of people, and I would very strongly include myself in this category, who was like, you know what? That ride is problematic. Like, you know, that ride probably shouldn't have existed in the first place. You know, it was based on this movie that this IP that nobody really cared about, that, you know, was controversial at the time for its depiction of race relations. They really only like made Splash Mountain because they needed to recycle like these animatronics from this pre-existing attraction, which was called America Sings. Like there was really like, as much as you might be attached to Splash Mountain, like there was really no reason for it to exist. And there's really no reason why in 2023 it should exist now. And Disney was all about evolving with the times, and the times have changed. And if this ride is hurtful to people, then we should get rid of it. And I think that's probably the biggest rift in the fandom. The people who are so attached to Disney and the brand and what it means, and what it meant, at the expense of, you know, evolving with the times or changing, and the people who are more open to it.
As a writer, you know, covering a myriad of things, do you feel like the Disney of it all, like, do you think it shapes kind of how you interpret culture, like at large? Or can
it
you
shapes how I
separate it?
interpret Disney.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Yeah, I would say it's sort of the opposite, because I don't exclusively write about Disney. I'm not a theme parks writer. I wish I wrote about Disney more, but and I pitch it whenever I get the opportunity. But I'm like an internet culture writer. Like I am in a very different space. I'm in the space of like subcultures in the far right and like extremist weirdness and the culture wars. It was a really interesting time when Disney was such a prominent part of the culture wars, like a year or two ago, with the Don't Say Gay bill, and how Chapek, you know, dropped the ball on his handling of that, because it was kind of like an intersection of two of my interests. So I would say that my experience like covering the far right and covering extremism kind of like informs my view of Disney, because I feel like I'm sort of able to understand slightly better like how they're trying to position themselves in the culture wars as a result. As a queer woman myself, and as somebody who thinks a lot about, you know, the intersection of queer identity and being a Disney fan, I mean, I can tell you that Disney has alienated the queer community for the past 50 years in various ways, and it hasn't had an impact at all on the fandom.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, like Disney really has yet to fully embrace the gay community in a profound way. I mean, we can talk about this for hours and hours, but like they were denying that gay days were a thing. I don't think they've still fully I don't think they've said like on the record fully like gay days are a thing at our park, and this is like a corporate sponsored or endorsed event. You know, there hasn't really been until recently any conversation about like an LGBTQ character, and all the efforts to feature LGBTQ characters have been really disappointing in a lot of the animated features. I mean, it's really only been until very, very recently that Disney has even accepted the idea that gay people exist, or that gay people, or more importantly, you know, from their vantage point, that they're a sector of the demographic to be marketed to explicitly.
Is that hard for you as a Disney fan and as a queer woman?
Yeah, of course it's hard.
Yeah.
Of course it's hard. It's very complicated being a Disney fan and being a progressive.
Right.
It's a very weird position to be in because the company is not progressive, in many, many ways. I think that they've sort of figured out how to like adopt the corporate vernacular of progressivism to some limited degree. They'll do like Pride Month Target collaborations and shit like that. But it's not a progressive company. It's at its, and I wrote about this, I think, in the piece, like it's at its heart a very conservative company for many, many reasons. Like, take Main Street, for instance. Like Main Street was developed with the idea in mind of hearkening back to like a very whitewashed version of like Americana. And we can talk for hours about like what that version of Americana like looks like and whether or not it includes people of color and LGBTQ people and Jewish people like myself. And that's not even going into like the stuff about Walt, being an anti-communist and his legacy. It's a very conservative company. It's a very conservative brand. I think it always will be, and at its heart. And it's very hard as a progressive to acknowledge that and also like maintain a love for the brand, for sure. Yeah.
It's a complicated thing. I mean, listen, I live and die by rap music, and as a queer woman and as a queer person, traditionally rap music from the 90s, which is what I tend to listen to because I'm stuck there, is not exactly friendly, but I like love it.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
It's the same. You know what I mean? I mean, it's very similar.
You can't be a perfect consumer of culture. Like, and I've sort of given up on trying.
That's fair. That's really, really, really fair. But I guess you can't deny that if you go into the park or if you watch your favorite film or if you're rediscovering The Lion King with your son, like that joy, that's yours,
Absolutely.
It's not anybody else's.
And I think, and it's complicated because I was saying earlier, you can't be a perfect consumer of culture. At the same time, like I do believe very strongly in voting with your dollar. Like I'm a big Harry Potter fan and I'm not going to buy Hogwarts Legacy because I think that J.K. Rowling is a transphobe and I don't want to support her. Could I make the same argument about going to Disney and subscribing to Disney Plus and getting Disney merch and Disney toys? Absolutely. They have done things that I do not agree with. But at the same time, it's sort of a slippery slope, right? Because you can't, Universal supported, Don't Say Gay too.
Yep.
Every brand, every company, in the capitalist world, like does things that I'm not going to agree with. So where am I going to draw that line, And I think it's kind of an ever evolving question. I don't think I have an answer to it. I don't think anybody has an answer to it.
No, I don't think anybody has an answer to it. I also think our society right now, the way that it's set up, it's very difficult to not wrestle with that and not to kind of in some ways have to support, like fucking oil is like the way like oil mining is awful. Like, but I need to drive my car.
Exactly. You can't. There's
I live in Glendale. I have to. How am I going to get to West Hollywood if I don't have a car? You know what I mean? There's no public transportation.
Consumption under capitalism is basically what it comes down to. And I think Disney is like the perfect example.
If I'm being honest, I kind of want to go to Disneyland. Listen, I know. I got to see what the fuss is all about. I'm a little worried about the parking and the heat and the lines and the screaming children, not babies, the screaming children in strollers, which I am going to judge. I am. And don't expect me to dress up. If I find some ears that have like lights in them, I could be down. But I'm also not really like looking forward to spending thousands of dollars, on a day at the park. I can only assume that if people of such different backgrounds that I just talked to all have like the same love, and dedication to a brand, there's gotta be something there that I would be into. My assumption is that the two things I'm gonna like the most are the dessert nachos and the cocktails, but you never know. I could be surprised. I just gotta plan a date and I gotta make sure I go with the right people. That's the other thing I was thinking about. I'm like, okay, obviously now I wanna go to Disneyland, but do I go with like a Disney adult? Or like Mackenzie said, do I even go solo and just experience the magic by myself? I don't know. If you are a Disney adult drop me a line and tell me why. And if you want to watch or listen to the extended and unedited versions of some of these episodes, head on over to my Patreon and you can listen and watch there.